Like and subscribe, now let's dive. Here we go. Today we're gonna dive into the worst things that have come out in the most recent Epstein drop so far, and we'll see how that continues to evolve. The first thing that I think has probably gotten the most attention are the Trump allegations. And boy, are there a lot of them. And I'm gonna phrase it as allegations because some people will believe they're real, some people won't. But for the sake of our purposes, there are a lot of them, so I've selected what I deem to be some of the worst that have surfaced so far. Unfortunately, most of these are unconfirmed because when the FBI followed up on these tips and leads, a lot of these people seemingly no longer existed, take it as you may, and the FBI and other agencies were unable to get in contact with them. Which, if you really start to think about it, could lead us down some very dark roads, especially considering what some of these allegations contain. Like the first one on screen now, which reads, whom included Epstein, Robin Leach, and Donald Trump. Complainant reported participating in orgies and that some girls went missing, rumored to have been murdered and buried at the facility. Complainant reported being threatened by Trump's then head of security that if she ever talked of what went on there or who she saw, he would, quote, end up as fertilizer for the back 9 holes like the other, can't say that one here. Now that is an interesting allegation that has been made because it's not the only reference to mass graves in the Epstein saga. Way back in the Zorro Ranch video, we discussed a huge pile of bodies, all matching for the most part Epstein's victim types that were buried about 20 minutes away via helicopter from Epstein's Zorro Ranch. The person behind these corpses that were discovered became known as the West Mesa Bone Collector. But what's particularly interesting is that no one has ever been confirmed as being the perpetrator. And to this day, said bone collector is still on the loose. So the fact that we have this possible body dump in New Mexico, and now we've also got this reference from someone who worked with Trump and or Epstein discussing a dump site for bodies, it does make one start thinking. As we said, there are a lot of these. So the next one that I pointed out was as follows. The complainant claims to have video of high-profile sex parties dealing with cartels and having witnessed Robin Leach strangle a young girl to death at a party. And so that in mind, I'm gonna have to ask 2 questions. The first one is, we could either prove or disprove these allegations so quickly if we just went and dug up said back 9 holes, or we were able to view the video that this claimant says that they possess. And I'm gonna wager that if we were to go through the supposed 2,000 videos that we got in this most recent Epstein dump, I'm gonna imagine that that party video is not among them. Not in my opinion because it doesn't exist, but because I don't think until something changes, we're ever gonna get that sort of evidence. And then something very interesting that follows up with a couple of these claims, and that I thought was possibly more interesting than some of the other claims themselves, that the FBI included in this little box next to some of them, quote, complainant was spoken to and deemed not credible. Additional research showed 3 separate incidents involving police which requested in mandatory psychiatric evaluations. Now I've seen many people come out and say, oh, it must mean these allegations are fake, but I think that'd be the kind of irresponsible way to look at this. If you were to consider that someone who had witnessed these horrifying things and had horrifying things happen to them, it would make sense why they would have been in such a state where they might have ended up in a psychiatric hospital. And you also could see how a justice system that has allowed this whole thing to continue happening and the plea deals Epstein's been given would then take advantage of someone who's in a weak mental state and then use that person's mental state to discredit their claims and try and discredit this whole narrative. And to that note, we do know that there is a huge effort to discredit this whole Epstein story happening right now. Just recently, Trump was discussing how this was all a hoax.
And it's completely fake news. We're not meeting to talk about the Epstein situation. And I think the reporter who reported it needs to get better sources.
Look, the whole thing is a hoax. It's put out by the Democrats because we've had the most successful 6 months in the history of our country. And that's just a way of trying to divert attention to something that's total bull. Okay?
Either way, though, I think it's pretty disgusting that people online are using this as this like huge silver bullet thing. I've seen it quoted a bunch of times. And it's kind of the point where it's kind of hard to believe that anyone's still defending the people who have been proven time and time again to be in these files. And worth mentioning, this is also the same FBI headed by Kash Patel, who not that long ago went out and told us that there was no evidence in his possession or to his knowledge or his department's knowledge that suggested that Epstein was transferring children to other people. That's a real quote. Let me play the video for you now.
There's no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one?
For the information that we have.
In the files?
In the case file.
Okay.
So the idea that they might take advantage of some people's mental states because of what they've seen isn't very outlandish to me. These allegations altogether aren't that shocking at this point, the ones we've read, because we have seen that there's a pattern of behavior that has come out in all these various reports. For reference, there's a body dump memo that came out in the last file release involving Trump and some other individuals and a little girl who was it. I don't even think I can say the full story here, but here it is on screen. The next continues with another claimant reporting that in 1987, a friend entitled Victim 1 was out drinking and ended up at Trump Plaza. Victim 1 saw Donald Trump and wanted to meet him. An unknown man approached her and offered to introduce her to Trump. The unknown man gave Victim 1 a drink, and Victim 1 woke up naked and sore with $300 on the bed. Victim 1 didn't remember how she got to the room. She remembered seeing, quote, a flash of Trump's face. Victim 1 called the caller and told her she thought she had been raped. Victim 1 did not go to the hospital to have a rape kit performed because she didn't think anyone would believe her, especially because she was drunk. Victim 1's husband's business had problems with suppliers, and Victim 1 believed Trump was behind it. Victim 1 also started dating a lawyer, identifiers unknown, who is married. Victim 1 had a fight with her lawyer boyfriend and went to a bar. Victim 1 left a bar with a man who no one in the bar recognized, but who seemed familiar with Victim 1. Victim 1 was never seen again. A few years ago, remains were discovered that matched the description of what Victim 1 was wearing when she went missing. DNA tests at the time were inconclusive. I'm kind of speechless about this one. This is by far the darkest thing we've read, which is saying something. The implication here is that Trump was involved in the trafficking and eventual murder of at least one woman, which is already peak degeneracy. But the fact that we do know that a body was later discovered matching this woman and matching this story is pretty horrifying. And it makes me wonder, why are we redacting the names here? Because we're certainly not protecting the victim who is dead. So then logically we're protecting the accused here, which would be Trump. And if there was actual information out there that could help bring light to this murder, I don't understand why we wouldn't be giving as much information as possible. And I'm sure the family of this victim would want just that. And that's kind of a theme in all of these files. There are very obvious bits of information that could be given to us to help alleviate a lot of the mysteries here, and yet it's not given. We get this close, and then it's gone. And I find that particular claim in and of itself also deeply intriguing, because there is a parallel claim from someone else, and I'm gonna put it on screen now. I'm not gonna read it because it's kind of just too horrifying to even get into. I posted on the Instagram account actually, and it blew up over there and people were shocked that it was real. But it seems to me to have some sort of similarity here in terms of the death aspect that's going on, and the to this other claim against Trump that was proven to have an actual dead body connected to it. The next reads as follows. In 2004 or 2005, Sir Ivan Witzing hosted a party where Jeffrey Epstein, Sammy Sosa, and Donald Trump were in attendance. Patti LaBelle's PR agent stood at the door. At the party, caller met an individual who was approximately 18 to 23 years of age, who was brought from Oklahoma for a modeling job, but then sold to a man in France. I presume that's Jean-Luc Brunel, is my addition there, Epstein's partner, and he also owned a modeling agency used for trafficking girls. Several women were being auctioned, and a woman possibly known as Colette LNU was the madam. A couple of years later, caller saw Colette at the Cheetah Club in New York, and she told one of Santos' friends that Jamie Foxx was interested in spending a night with her and that he could pay her a lot of money. Already a terrible story, and shout out Jamie Foxx. Hope we get some answers from you, buddy. But what I think is more alarming is that the phone number that was provided was now a bad line, and they could no longer identify a valid number for the person. That's a horrifying thought, and she might have ended up like the other individual. Interjection, there are a series of videos that have popped up. There's supposedly 2,000 of them, but I haven't found any more than just a couple of them. I don't think anyone has, so we'll see if there's actually 2,000. That being said, these two videos show Epstein playing with his girls, and the girls are very heavily redacted, but you can still get the vibe of what's going on. Let me just play those for you now. All right, now back to the video. Here I'm gonna interject, I can't take credit for these findings. These were actually sent to me by my mom, who has been perusing these files and researching herself, and she had a lot of great information to add. The first thing she sent was that former US ambassador to Mexico named Earl Anthony Wayne is named in this latest files drop. He actually is in a whole email, and it comes across as kind of like a petty comeback, but the information we get is beyond wild. And evidently, if you go deep enough down the rabbit hole, there is proof of this. So the important part for us reads as follows. You may want to question the ex-US ambassador to Mexico, Mr. Earl Anthony Wayne, about his involvement with an underage girl when he attended and was arrested by the federal police. We believe that Marcinko and Epstein were involved organizing this party, and it was held in Juarez, Mexico in 2014 at a US consulate-controlled housing facility. Ask him how he knows Richard Marcinko. He was sentenced in Mexico in 2017 to a life sentence for impregnating an 11-year-old girl. Her son's DNA matches Wayne's 100%, but he's allowing an ex-US Marine to stand in his place to serve his sentence in Mexico. That was an agreement worked out between our US State Department and a judge in Mexico after a huge payoff. Mr. Anthony has an outstanding arrest warrant here in Mexico for avoiding sentencing. His cell number is redacted. I want to confirm that the phone number you will be using has been swept for malware and keyloggers. After our call, you'll understand why we are so concerned with our security comms here. From Ken Turner. I think that speaks for itself. I'm not even gonna add anything to that. Although I will say, this Wayne fellow certainly looks the part of the kind of fellow who would impregnate an 11-year-old girl. Allegedly. Throughout this whole Epstein thing, we've discussed it in the series, and it's been discussed pretty widely that there's a very obvious connections to satanic events and occultism is how we'll put it. But to have Epstein have a bank account named Baal, as in the ancient demon which the Canaanites and on occasion Israelites sacrificed their children to, often by a burning fire, what is really all one can say. It's as obvious as that. In this email, he's discussing needing an $11,000 transfer, he being Epstein, from his bank to his bank account named Baal. It's just that simple. Prince Andrew, it's been pretty popularized at this point. There's a picture of what I'm gonna say is supposedly him, but come on. And it's him in several different images over top of a girl laying on the floor. Her face is blurred out. We don't know if she's actually conscious or not, but Prince Andrew has been labeled countless times in these Epstein proceedings as being involved with children. So it wouldn't be really surprising if this is what we think it is. That being said though, people have brought up the connections between Princess Diana, who was in the 90s, and how she was calling out the royal family for all sorts of things, like what Prince Andrew and others in the royal family have been accused of. An example of these accusations being, back in the 1990s, Ghislaine Maxwell recruited a girl for a modeling career. Instead of modeling, she was sold as a slave for sex and torture. Prince Andrew was an accessory to her death as he tortured her and me to force her. I need to get a passport to identify her. I will need someone to contact the passport office to get an expedited passport. Thank you. Redacted. He called me wanting to give him a secure email address. He is from blank. The number that came up is blank. Wendy, it's no problem at all to include me on Epstein Maxwell notifications going forward, but I wanted to let you know that because of my unit move, the office has transitioned me off the case and added blank. So if you wouldn't mind including her on any notifications, please. Thank you, and I hope you are doing all right these days, given all the circumstances. The reason I read the full email is because this person comes forward with a probably very provable accusation, and all she needs is a passport to go and confirm the identity of an individual involved. And then suddenly the person who's been working on this case with her and who she's been contacting is now moving units, and someone else has to be the point of contact, which is a classic bureaucratic method for avoiding the truth and trying to prevent people from getting any information out there. You just switch the person in charge of the case and you keep doing that. It's pretty dark, but I'm gonna guess that's what's happening here. Well, as it seems pretty bizarre to me, and let me make sure this is right, that within the span of 4 days, the person on top of the case was magically shifted to a different unit and no longer has any authority to do anything about what's being said. There is a later reference in file EFTA 011929991, actually to Princess Diana herself, who, like we said, was calling out this sort of behavior in the royal family. And it goes as follows. In 1994, just at the moment when Prince Charles was on television acknowledging his love for Camilla Parker Bowles, Jeffrey Epstein was sitting with his arm around Princess Diana at a dinner at the Serpentine Gallery in London. Parentheses, Diana was wearing her revenge dress that evening. Graydon Carter, in his second year as editor of Vanity Fair, was also at the dinner. And it goes on to discuss how these two, Epstein and Carter, are often one and the same with their strange rise to power and their ability to wield their power for certain motives. Thought it was worth referencing that Diana is directly referenced in these documents. And that ends it for this segment of what my mom has sent me. And thanks, Mom, for sending me that great info. Also buried within the files as we continue is an email from a fellow named Howard Lutnik. It was actually received by Leslie Groff, which is one of Epstein's 4 or so women that were really involved in the, we'll call transacting of these sorts of relationships with children. And in this case, Groff had received an email from Howard Lutnik describing how Howard, along with another family, wanted to come to the island. Howard then goes on to specifically reference the ages of each of the children, which is weird. I'm not sure why you would do that. It's even stranger that Epstein had already been convicted and then given his sweetheart deal about his previous cases of actions with children, we'll put it. And so now you have a man with 4 of his own children and 4 of someone else's discussing how he wants to go visit the island of a man who literally diddles kids of the same ages that he's listing in his email. And so beyond the fact that it's a bizarre email that I think is signaling something deeper, if we were to look into who Howard Lutnik is, we're gonna notice that he parallels Epstein in some extremely bizarre manners. Howard was the CEO of a company named Cantor Fitzgerald, which was founded in 1945. It's a finance company for all intents and purposes. Most recently though, Howard was the co-chair for the transfer team, bringing in the new administration and replacing the old one. And so he's very close with Trump, obviously. And on top of that, he was named the 41st Secretary of Commerce of the United States. So now we have a man in the Epstein files in a position that high, also friends with another guy who's all over these files. So take that as you may. Continuing though, what's interesting about Howard and why he is worth bringing up is, like I said, his rise parallels Epstein's very strangely. At the age of 21, Howard was invited to join this company. He was hired, and within 8 years, he was CEO of a major financial corporation. If you remember Epstein, he went from literally being a school teacher to being, and then suddenly Epstein within a couple of years was this massive guy in the tax avoidance part of the Bear Stearns company at the time. And his whole job was connecting with wealthy people and helping them avoid taxes. So we have both of these men rising to prominence in 2 separate financial corporations at extremely young ages, as far as I can tell without their credentials to match. And in both cases, we know that Epstein had some extreme connections, and evidently Howard does as well. Why I want to keep talking about Howard, though, is about his involvement and connections to the events that happened 3 days after September the 8th of 2001. At the time, Cantor Fitzgerald held offices in the center that dealt with trade worldwide. And very specifically, he was in a place where when the American Airlines flight careened with the building, his floors were the ones directly above where the plane hit. Long story short, he ends up getting a huge payout from suing the airline. He ends up getting, I'm assuming, a lot of insurance from the over 600 employees he had that passed away, which is a deep, deep sadness. Howard, a man who was evidently a workaholic, because in 8 years he went from entry level to CEO, just so happened to not be in the office that day. Seems convenient, and that would make Howard one of many, many other people who just so happened to run corporations in that building, and they just weren't there that day. Take that as you may, I see it as a very real possibility that Howard was even more deeply connected than we might imagine. And I think the fact that he's so close with Epstein that he's discussing bringing children there, just not a great look at the very least. And for the record, this is the same Howard Lutnik who, when Trump is discussing Epstein and this being all a hoax and all, you know, it's over exaggerated, you can see Howard in the background chortling to himself.
The 2 Kevins, it's very good.
Mr. President, is Vice President Vance hosting a gathering this evening to talk about how to respond to the Epstein situation?
Is he working on what?
Is he hosting some kind of gathering of top advisors this evening to talk about how to respond to the Epstein situation?
I don't know. I could ask you that question. I don't know of it, but I think, here's the man right here.
I saw it reported today.
I think really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But credible information.
The next finding worth mentioning is that as we're diving into all these allegations against Trump and other people, the DOJ, who is responsible for releasing this information, was like, oh, and they have since deleted some of the allegations against Trump from the actual files repository. And they also did this in the previous information dump, and then later were called out and added those files back in. Whether or not they do the same thing here, I don't know, but come on. You have these allegations that all of the Trump defenders are referring to as being insane and ridiculous and totally untrue. Okay, that could be true. I'll advocate for the other side here. That might be true. But then if these were all fake allegations and there was nothing to them, why would the Department of Justice go so far as to start deleting them from the actual files so future people can't download them. That doesn't seem like the actions of someone who's completely innocent or the actions that someone would take against purely false allegations. And shockingly, with this next one, we don't know who this email was sent to since it was redacted, but it's from Jeffrey Epstein and it was on April the 24th of 2009. And it says, "Where are you? Are you okay? I loved the torture video." For the first time in a long time, I don't think we have much to add context-wise to that, except that we all kind of assumed this was happening, but to have it spelled out to that degree is wild. And the response from Mr. Black Rectangle is simply, "I am in China. I will be in US second week of May." Sent from my BlackBerry wireless device. I'm sure BlackBerry is not pleased about their name being right next to this exchange. This next section we're gonna read through, and it's simply just gonna be entitled, "The Musk Family Files." I didn't even know Musk had a brother. I read Musk's autobiography a while ago, and won't get into the book review, but I totally forgot he had a brother. But when I read that, I was like, oh, that's right, he discussed him. His brother's name is Kimball. Kimball is a businessman and chef, according to Wikipedia. He actually just owns a food company named Kitchen, among some other things, and being related to Musk has probably been handed quite a bit of wealth. That all out of the way, Kimball is himself quite the power player because of these connections and because of his wealth. And so I guess seeing him in the files isn't too odd, but what he says is just weird and bizarre, but for our purposes does give us a pretty good look at what's going on and makes it hard to say that the Musks did not know what is going on at the island and other properties. Before we read the email though, I want to reiterate that this person being discussed is likely over the age of 18 at this point. And so why are we redacting the name of this person? That would be the opportunity to bring justice on behalf of this person, to be like, okay, let's research, let's find info, let's back up these claims. And instead the name is left out, making it just another black rectangle with a bizarre email attached to it, which is evil to the max. That being said, the first part of this exchange comes from somebody else to Kimball, and then Kimball replies. "Kimball, just FYI, you better be nice to Redacted. Jeffrey goes crazy when someone mistreats his girls / friends, so better be very nice to her. And Jeffrey and I better have a special treatment at your ceremony, winky face. Great to hang out with you. See you very soon. Please keep me posted. RE, your travel plans to New York City. I'm in New York City very often as well. Until sometime soon. B." From Kimball Musk to Boris Nelchik and Jeffrey Epstein. The subject is medication use higher among overweight, obese kids. I have no idea what that's in reference to. "Per our conversation, great to hang out today. Jeffrey and Boris, many thanks for connecting me with blank. I believe you both played a role. Smiley face." What a weirdo is all I have to say. And once again, give us the names so we can bring justice to these people, because the Department of Justice clearly isn't going to. For a little bit more color, I went through and was researching what Kimball Musk's background is. And like we said, he owns restaurants and all that. But in his bio, if you look, it also says he's the co-founder and chairman of Big Green, a 501c3 nonprofit that has built hundreds of outdoor classrooms called learning gardens in schoolyards across the United States. It's funny in a dark way. You'll often see this sort of stuff where people speculated to be involved in nefarious acts with children will find some sort of way to be involved with children in a different capacity, like building classrooms for kids. An odd note, but a consistent one as you start looking into a lot of these people. That all being said, Kimball Musk is obviously a weirdo and likely up to some horrible stuff, but he is not anywhere near the weirdest of the Musk progeny in these emails so far. That award goes to Elon Musk. Now, if you're not up to date on what's been happening in the past day or so, Elon Musk, to many, was the guy calling out Trump and others for being in the files. And more specifically, let me quote. Elon Musk not that long ago wrote on Twitter, "Time to drop the really big bomb. At real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, DJT." And then he follows it up with, "Mark this post for the future, the truth will come out." Now, obviously we know that Trump is in the files, all over them, but what we were kind of suspecting based on this is that you would not find Elon Musk in there. And after seeing that Musk is in the Epstein files, and on top of that, that Musk has previously implied that he wouldn't be in there, people have also brought up that Elon Musk told us that he had been invited to the island and had been invited to spend time with Epstein, but had said, nah, I don't really want to do that. With that context in mind, let's now read the emails for which Elon Musk is all over, and probably the cringiest of all of them that I've ever read. And that might sound dramatic, but I'm being serious. I'm gonna read these emails. They're in no specific order. They're littered across the files, and I'm sure we might even find more as people continue to dig through them. That being said, the first one reads as follows. From Elon Musk, presumably to Leslie Groff, based on the other email contexts. Leslie Groff being the person who was orchestrating a lot of the children coming to the islands and other Epstein properties. Elon says, we'll be in BVI/St. Bart's area over the holidays. Is there a good time to visit? Response is, any day, 1st through 8th, play it by ear. If you want, always space for you. Oh, how generous. And then from Epstein, the 2nd or 3rd would be perfect. I will come and get you. Elon replies, I need to fly back to LA on the night of the 2nd, so W. Follow up, actually, I could fly back early on the 3rd. We will be in St. Bart's. When should we head to your island on the 2nd? And then Leslie Groff, the administrator secretary, emails Epstein the following. Just a reminder, Elon Musk was asking about coming to your island on January 2nd. That is so cringe. Let's continue though, because there's quite a few of these emails. To Elon Musk from Leslie Groff, again, the orchestrator of a lot of these kids being at the island. Hello, Mary Beth. I have now sent you a copy of all 3 girls' passports. Parentheses, sorry, redacted is upside down. But I figure you will print, exclamation point. Jeffrey will have his ID with him. Thank you, Leslie, assistant to Jeffrey Epstein. Mind you, this is the same Leslie who said she had no idea what was going on with the kiddos. Also to Elon Musk discussing 3, not women, which is still wrong, 3 girls. What's going on, Elon? That would be lame if we stopped there, because it doesn't stop there. We have 2 Epstein from Elon Musk. This was on Tuesday, the 25th of December, 2012. Many years after Epstein was already a convicted child sex offender. Quote, do you have any parties planned? I've been working to the edge of sanity this year, and so once my kids head home after Christmas, I really want to hit the party scene in St. Bart's or elsewhere and let loose. The invitation is much appreciated, but a peaceful island experience is the opposite of what I'm looking for. First, this is horrifying because what he seems to be asking for based on the other emails is children. On top of that, but I will say that's speculation. But on top of that, the way he's begging to be involved almost, really weird. And for then Elon Musk to play up this whole thing that he's the good guy and Trump's in the files and throw him under the bus like that, boy, this is a bad look. But it does get worse. From Jeffrey Epstein to Elon Musk. This was November 24th of 2012 at 9:40 a.m. when Jeffrey sent the following email to Musk. How many people will you be for the heli to the island? And then Musk responds at 12:36 a.m. on November 25th of 2012, probably just Tallulah and me. What day/night will be the wildest party on your island? Once again, considering the context of the other emails where girls and passports are referenced, among other things, I think he knows what he's looking for when it comes to wild parties. And I cannot believe that Musk in just a few emails has managed to out cringe and weirdo the other millions of pages of information we have. Musk's emails speak for himself, and I am very curious to see how he comes out and tries to circumnavigate this one, because this is so caught red-handed. I don't know if you can wriggle your way out of this. The following we're gonna go through here is extremely dark information. They appear to be journal entries and poems from girls that were involved in this ring, and I'm just gonna read them for you. I probably won't comment too much because I think they speak for themselves, like a lot of the information in here, but it's worth as many people seeing them as possible because it's one of the purest forms of evil and sadness I've ever seen. Controlled all by Jeffrey, all the time, get away from it all, and go to New Mexico. What in the heck? This makes no sense. What about school? Behind the scenes. He is now controlling everything when he used to be Ghislaine, who some days acts like she hates me. Secrets of ... all of them. I am tired of keeping this secret. I know people are wondering, but I can't tell. I am exhausted. Broken promises. I can't understand why she is treating me on some days like I'm the enemy, but then we lay in bed together and she is how she used to be. Warm. He makes her feel my tummy and it's so sad and confusing. Superior gene pool? Why me? It makes no sense. Why my hair color and eye color? First thing I want to reference here though is that she talked about New Mexico and then this gene pool, and I have a video on Epstein's Zorro Ranch you should check out, specifically because Epstein tells women we get into in there that he's designing a race basically, and that he wants to use his ranch to harvest eggs from women and impregnate women to create a superior human. That feels very National Socialist-like, but I'm thinking about these stupid, insane theories that he has. I guess in his mind it makes sense. The piano and music comments are made to convince me that this is right and will create perfect offspring, he calls them. I don't think it works that way, and it's making me hate playing altogether. Piano or viola, I'm starting to resent them both. I miss the person I was before I was made into what feels as a human incubator. I believe these are all written by the same girl, but we can't really know for sure. The next page is just a series of letters written in red with what are possibly bloodstains or just splotches from whatever was being used to write. There are some words in there, or parts of words. I don't know what this is. The only guess I have is that it's a code, or it also reminds me of when people are trying to memorize something, and they'll write the first letter of each word, and then you try and memorize it that way. I don't know, I think a code is more likely, but it's worth putting out there. We will notice though that this is a theme among a lot of these entries, that there are many pages just like this. The next journal entry reads, close your eyes, and your eyes close your eyes. Don't speak, she doesn't talk. I can't stop shaking, it's been a week. A decision was made, but I can't tell Jeffrey. These things happen, why didn't I close my eyes fast enough? The doctor was different again, I think from Israel. He had kind eyes, but didn't speak directly to me. This was different. A shot and those rod-like things had a hook and so much pain. Ghislaine said to push all the pain away. I don't understand. Blood and water all over the bed, and she was right. Like a feeling when your tummy hurts and you have to push. She said to close my eyes and put her hands over my eyes, but I didn't close them because of these tiny cries. I am so lost. I saw between her fingers this tiny head and body in the doctor's hands. It reached his tiny arm up and had a tiny foot. I closed my eyes and no more. Next page. This is discussing the of a baby and a doctor that apparently shifts. And there's a guy who I'm going to put on screen now. He actually discusses at one point how these sorts of things work. I'd recommend checking out the video. It's very interesting. He does great work. But I don't know if we can give the appropriate context right now. If you're curious for more, I just can't even. This is so dark. I don't even know what else to say. Let's just keep going. Cries. I don't understand. Just say these things happen, but he doesn't believe that. They yelled and screamed, and he said it will be the same in a couple of months, and she said she was fed up with it all. I don't understand what is going on, and no one will tell me. I can't go to school like this. I can't stop shaking. Why won't anyone make it stop? I know Ghislaine is trying, but nothing happens. Why didn't I close my eyes? And then another page of what are to us random letters. Next is a poem entitled Stillborn. These poems do not live. It's a sad diagnosis. They grew their toes and fingers well enough. Their little foreheads bulge with concentration. If they missed out on walking about like people, it wasn't for any lack of mother love. Oh, I cannot understand what happened to them. They are proper in shape and number and every part. They sit so nicely in the pickling fluid. They smile and smile and smile and smile at me. And still the lungs won't fill and the heart won't start. They are not pigs. They are not even fish. Though they have a piggy and fishy air, it would be better if they were alive. And that's what they were. But they are dead, and their mother, they're dead with distraction, and they stupidly stare and do not speak of her. That one got a couple of tears from me, I won't lie. I don't even really want to talk about it, but it's in there, and there's more letters for whatever code this was. We have my heart is breaking, a short life, tragedy, she was born. The next page is almost entirely just more of this code stuff, and it says, a promise to respect your sense of style most of the time, a promise one day you'll meet another man this trusting, a promise to provide for you no matter what. And at the bottom of the page it says, keeping us all connected. And then this one is a page with clipped out stuff from other papers, and then also more of the code at the bottom. But there is some very disturbing stuff it includes. Quote, our finance department deals with all the paperwork. Unfortunately, the finance department is also family. Who knew? I was born a slave. Life in a parallel universe. Unlike drugs, a woman's body can be sold over and over. The slaves in Lake Placid were invisible. People were playing golf at the retirement community, and right behind them was a slave camp. Want to reference then that previous allegation we got into about Trump and bodies being buried at the golf course. Who knows if there's a connection there? Once again, we need to go start digging. And then at the bottom, and it's pretty small print, it says, one U.S. shelter has rescued 10,000 child prostitutes. Sociologist Lois Lee Wright has spent 24 years working with children from 11 to 17 years old who've been trafficked by pimps. One young mother left at her Children of the Night shelter in Southern California was forced to work as a prostitute in Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and Nevada before escaping her captor. Quote, the sexual exploitation of American children cuts across every economic, ethnic, and social line. Lee says, this is not just a third world problem. And boy, isn't that the truth. My friend Redacted realized much of everything and came to get me out of Mary's. She made me leave all things of value on the bed. She put all my belongings in trash bags. I have maybe avoided an M being New Mexico, I think, which is where the Zorro Ranch is, which is where the harvesting happens. Continuing, I have been playing with friends, but never more than 2 or 3 nights because my mother is on the warpath. Redacted have been so great, but Redacted saw me changing and knows about the baby. He said he promises to help me and will figure out what to do. And because of the corruption of the system, the names are redacted and we don't know who is being discussed and we cannot help bring justice. And then on screen now is the document that's also in the files. I'll let you look at it for yourself. It is a really great example of how odd this whole thing is. It kind of just leaves you speechless when you start looking into it. There's another page that is covered in more of these red splotches. I'm gonna presume that's not blood, that it's a marker of some kind. I don't know what it's meant to symbolize, but clearly whoever did this thought it was important enough to put in their journal among these entries that are discussing the most horrifying things imaginable. Next is a picture of an ultrasound, and it's a poem that says, child, your clear eye is the one absolute beautiful thing. I want to fill it with color and ducks, the zoo of the new, whose names you meditate, April snowdrop, Indian pipe, little, stalk without wrinkle, pool in which images should be grand and classical, not this troublous wringing of hands, their dark ceiling without fear. And then it says, she was so very beautiful, and enters back into a sort of code. And above the ultrasound, it says, she is gone and won't be coming back. I don't know what this means, once again, beyond what it appears to be saying. I hope someone cracks the code though. As of now, I haven't seen any information on that. There's another one that references another infant, and it says the following. My heart belonged to her. She was so very beautiful. She was perfect. I can't bring myself to write what happened. I am beyond broken. I only got 10 to 15 minutes to hold and feed her before they took her. She is mine. I want her back. Distraught. And the following page says, help me in all caps. Please can't anyone find me in all caps. And then brackets, clipping with date, National Geographic, September 2003. Bailey parentheses, survived all his procedures. My heart is gone. Once again, considering this is a giant trafficking ring of children and most frequently little girls, it is no surprise that there's a lot of kid slaughter going on, but to read little girls writing about it is probably the most heartbreaking thing I've ever seen. There's even more of this, but I think you guys get the point. On a more lighthearted note, because I can't do much more of that, we do learn that there is a side of Epstein we would never have expected. That being that Jeffrey Epstein was a gamer, and not just any gamer, an Xbox player. Now that might be surprising, it was to me, because I wouldn't think he would have enough time to be getting on the Xbox, but he did apparently. But it's really funny that Epstein was a gamer, because he was evidently so involved with Xbox that he managed to get perma-banned on there. In 2013, now I don't know if you're super familiar with the Xbox ecosystem, but when I was growing up and playing Xbox, it was not known as a super kind place, Xbox Live. You got away with saying just about anything, and there are hilarious chats because of that. So to get banned is kind of a feat. I gotta wonder what exactly Epstein did that got him banned in an age where stuff like this.
Hey, you're just mad because I'll be able to do something with my guitar in hands that you'll never be able to achieve in your entire life, kid. So yeah, you're gay.
Was the norm, and people were looking for that sort of experience. And thank you to r/Xbox on Reddit for posting this, because otherwise we wouldn't know that Microsoft and Xbox has done more to punish Jeffrey Epstein than the US government has. The email from Microsoft.com to gvacation reads as follows. Notice of permanent enforcement action, harassment, threats, and/or abuse. What happened? This email is to notify you that your Xbox Live account privileges have been permanently suspended due to harassment, threats, and/or abuse of other players. This conduct has been deemed to be severe, repeated, and/or excessive. Why we enforce? The conduct that causes suspension may include, but is not limited to, threats of death, harm, property damage, or any other act of violence or vandalism, verbal abuse or profanity directed at other players, which was common, so it's definitely not just that, griefing, extortion or manipulation, libel, defamation, or slander, display or transmission of personally identifiable information such as name, address, phone number, or IP address, and stalking. What on earth was Epstein up to? On top of this ring, he was stalking Xbox players? What is wrong? What is going on? This story it's literally a movie at this point. And then the email ends with, your conduct was brought to the attention of the Xbox Live policy and enforcement team through either complaints filed by other Xbox Live users or in the course of our operation of the service. The Xbox Live policy and enforcement team has reviewed the complaints and other evidence regarding this conduct and determined it violates the Xbox Live terms of use. And then they go on to say that they suspend the account permanently. I am so curious if, as we dig through the files, we're gonna find out more of the information and reports that were made against him, because I cannot imagine what he had to do to get banned from Xbox Live in the 360 era. Stalking? I wanna know more about what that means, and they clearly have evidence of this because people were sending it to them. I gotta know. So if you have any information, make sure to send it. There is also a whole email in which Epstein and Greg Brown discuss extorting Libyan officials and seizing assets belonging to the Libyan state in order to rebuild the country, which is never what the purpose is. And Epstein was plotting this takeover with Greg Brown using assets and resources belonging to MI6, British version of the CIA, and the Mossad. The email reads as follows, from Greg Brown to Epstein. Jeffrey, understood. Remember, there are already 80 billion in frozen funds and assets internationally, of which 32.4 billion is in the US. And it is estimated that the real number is somewhere between 3 to 4 times this number in sovereign, stolen and misappropriated funds. So if we can identify or recover 5 to 10% of these monies and receive 10 to 25% as compensation, we are talking about billions of dollars. But the real carrot is who says the real carrot? But the real carrot is if we can become their go-to guys, because they plan to spend at least $100 billion next year to rebuild their country and jumpstart the economy. Also remember, Libya is a rich country and its population is 2 million less than the city of New York, and has the 9th largest crude oil and natural gas reserves on the planet and a literacy rate of almost 80%. Always oil, guys. I have been speaking to the law firm Paul, Hastings, Jankowski, and Walker, 1,200 attorneys of which 240 are partners, to go after the money on a contingency basis, and they are considering this because Patent Boggs is representing the TNC on a contingency basis. But it would be to our advantage to pay them on an hourly basis and initially go after the low-hanging fruit, which would enable us to make more of the money. This next part is really important. I also have friends formerly with MI6 and Mossad willing to help identify stolen assets and get them recovered. Get them recovered. This is give me if we can get in early. Let's speak as soon as possible. Sincerely, Greg Brown. Once again, by BlackBerry. BlackBerry keeps popping up. This was on July 15th of 2011. Shortly thereafter, Gaddafi would be and Libya would become an awful place to live, and possibly Epstein and friends got wealthier because of that. So take that as you may. All right, and this next email is, oh my goodness, very dark. It's insane. And it's from who knows who to who knows who, because both names are redacted. The subject is RE, interview of purported Epstein victim. Although evidently these people are really stupid, because in the other redaction below, we can see that one of the people involved is a Walter Harkins with NYPD. All right, and the email reads as follows. Thanks, redacted. I didn't realize Bush him too. Okay. SSA, redacted, FBI, New York. On August 28th, 2019 at 12:43 p.m. I'd like to add a few other points disclosed by the purported victim. While on this yacht, he witnessed African-American males having sex with white blonde females, all of whom were bleeding during intercourse. He was a victim of a type of ritualistic sacrifice in which his feet were cut with a scimitar but left no scarring. On the yacht, he witnessed babies being dismembered, their intestines removed, and individuals eating the feces from these intestines. He was also by George Bush 1. The victim disclosed he was escorted to the FBI building by Michael Moore, who is the creator of True Pundit, described by multiple online sources as a conspiracy-driven news website that attempts to paint the FBI in a bad light. Hey FBI, doesn't take much to paint you in a bad light. Moore has a criminal record as a result of an FBI investigation for copyright infringement. I don't know if you want to discuss the former FBI agent that called this into the head office. Thanks. That being said, many people might think that the murder and eating of children is insane. However, there is a clip from a woman named Gabrielle Rico Jimenez, I believe it's from 2009, and Gabrielle walks out of a luxury hotel in Mexico, if I'm correct, and she goes on to, for about 20 or so seconds, scream about how they are eating people in there, that they are eating people, and that these people are up to incredibly evil things.
¡Comieron humanos! ¡Asquerosidad! ¡Comieron humanos! Yo no estaba enterada de nada. Que había, o sea, los asesinatos sí, pero que habían comido humanos. ¡Humanos! ¡Fuera la carne humana!
Gabrielle, who was a model or something along those lines, then after this clip, goes missing. And we say that because there's no evidence she lived past this point, no evidence of her death. She literally disappeared that day, as far as we are aware, and has never been seen again, and has never followed up on this claim, which would go along with a lot of the other allegations, like we're going to bury you in the back nine with all the other women. Also in these files is an enormous email, angry, but it's basically discussing how Bill Gates' wife, Melinda, at the time, got an STD and needed antibiotics because she had been engaged in activities with Russian girls and gotten venereal diseases. It's a very awkward email. It's huge, so we're not gonna read it all, but it's pretty hilarious because Jeffrey Epstein emailed this to himself to memorialize it, and so he didn't forget. And the subject is just Bill. So once again, Bill and Melinda Gates, people who are supposedly helping the world and are super good and like to spend money on helping children, are involved in this sort of crap at the exact same time. Bill Gates is also the guy who wants to blot out the sun and infect ticks with diseases for you. So yeah, same Bill. And then this next part is for the real ones. We have a long-running series on the channel about the pasta fence incident. I'll let you piece that one together. It boils down to the absolute most fundamental part of that story is that there are emails that were leaked in Hillary Clinton where there were discussions of pizza parties and hot dogs and other foods. And for a long time, that was believed to be referring to kids, and rightfully so. If you read the emails, they're ridiculous. But we never got the exact confirmation we might have liked until this Epstein email release, and we see that this sort of pizza-related code using food is not just with Hillary and friends, it's a widely used one. And then in many regards, connecting the Hillary scandal to the Epstein scandal more directly than ever before, because they're both using the same sort of code based on these emails. So let me just read a couple of them for you. From Harry Fish to Jeffrey Epstein. My goodness. Chunky, I forgot about that. What time do you want to get pizza and grape soda tomorrow? From Roy Hodges to Jeffrey Epstein. I wanted to let you know the crew really appreciated the pizza party. Thank you for letting us do that. Never heard anyone talk about a pizza party that way. Daphne Wallace to Epstein. Subject, may I bring in your slice of pizza to you? Respectfully, Daphne. Never heard pizza referred to that way. This is from Redacted to G Vacation Attachments Vero Equity Research Brookline. And it says, this is better than a Chinese cookie. See attached. Let's go for pizza and grape soda again. No one else can understand. Go no. Not kidding, verbatim. You know you're weird and guilty when you're going, no one else will understand about our pizza and grape soda party. This one is from Redacted to Leslie Groff, who's one of 4-ish women in charge of orchestrating and scheduling these girls. It reads as follows. On May 30th, 2017, 11:29 a.m. Hello, Bobby. Hope you have been having a great time with you, honey, ... reconfirming you will both come to see Jeffrey at 4 p.m. today, ... Do you know if you'll be leaving tomorrow or June 1st? Thanks, Leslie. Leaving tomorrow morning early, and yes, of course we will be there at 4. You need a pizza or anything. Ha ha ha, no, I don't need a pizza, but thank you for offering. See you at 4 p.m. and thanks on the apartment info. And then 3 kiss emojis. And this one's from Redacted to Epstein. Ari, the pizza monster. You mean radiating a soft glow with the look of bliss and excitement? Yeah, that's the pizza sent from M equals iPhone. See, I don't know if this is a spelling error or there's legit some code hidden in that, because you're gonna see this equals sign theme repeat a ton. And then it continues with, she looks pregnant, sent from my iPhone. Pizza and pregnancy in the same email. This one's sent September 23rd, 2018, from Redacted to Redacted, and the subject line is alert. Ask Jen Cisco if she tipped the pizza guy. Not really sure why it's worth emailing, and why are the names redacted if there's nothing there. This is to Valdson Cotrin, and it's from Leslie Groff, and the subject is your pizza is yummy, yummy, all caps. And it reads as follows. Thank you for the pizza today. Really good, XO, Leslie. Merci, Leslie. It's me, Palacier, envoy de mon iPad. If I was going to guess, I wonder if this person's involved in like the secretary for Jean-Luc Brunel maybe, because that would make sense considering how close Epstein and Brunel were in this whole trafficking thing. But this is to Jeffrey Epstein from Redacted, which why are we protecting these people? Subject is pizza. Good afternoon. Would it be possible for Bryce and I to go over to Red Hook and have a quick pizza meal? Pizza being capitalized, completely grammatically wrong. And then it says warmest regards to Red Hook Quarter Suite, St. Thomas, and then redacted information. For now, that's all the pizza references we have, but I look forward to seeing more of them pop up as we continue to search. We're now jumping out from the pizza. There's this email that is confusingly redacted and I think is revealing that the person writing it is Tansrinda Maraccioli. Do you want me to try to do her, ... or just torture her on? I don't know if it gets much more obvious than that. So we went from pizza codes to them just admitting what's going on. But as we approach the end, I want to point out that the new governor of New York, the one claimed to not be involved with Israel, who now, based on all appearances, seems to be very directly involved, unsurprisingly has a mom, but not just any mom, one that appears in the Epstein files, specifically on Wednesday, October the 21st of 2009. And in this email, for which the title and subject have been redacted, seems convenient, it says the following. Just left Ghislaine's townhouse, after party for film. Bill Clinton and Jeff Bezos were there. Jean Pagazzi and director Myra Nair, etc. Myra Nair is the mother of Zoran, whatever his name is, that's now the mayor of New York. And so it would seem that nothing ever changes and that these people stay in power and their kids take over that power. So I hope for all those in New York who are questioning your decisions, if you weren't already, for electing this guy mayor. And to round it out with another humorous Elon Musk email, it goes as following. Any plans for New York? The opening of the General Assembly has many interesting people coming to the House. That was from Jeffrey Epstein. And then from Elon Musk it says, I run and lead product design engineering for 2 complicated companies. Moreover, SpaceX is about to launch what is arguably the most advanced rocket in history. Flying to New York to see UN diplomats do nothing would be an unwise use of time. This being the same guy who was begging to go to the island. And then it follows up with a even weirder, do you think I'm retarded? Question mark, just kidding. There is no one over 25 and all very cute. And that might be one of the strangest emails I have ever read because it makes literally 0 sense. But as of now, though, we're gonna end it there. These are the strangest, darkest, and most disturbing findings so far in the new Epstein Files release. And I really hope you guys enjoyed watching. Stay tuned, and we're gonna keep diving into this. Thank you all for watching, and I can't wait to see each and every one of you in the next one.